And that's what PowerBuilder developers really love about PowerBuilder. Even after 20 years, right? Technologies keep evolving, but data window is still wonderful. So the way we see it at Appeon is that the need for developing a client with PowerBuilder is not gone, even though PowerBuilder has been around for 20 years. Even when you're building cloud applications, it's not always HTML is the right solution. There's so many UI frameworks and technologies because for different situation, a different framework or technology makes sense. So for some situation, maybe React Native makes sense to build a mobile app. For another situation, maybe using Swift on iOS makes sense. For another situation, maybe the Vue.js Marco presented makes sense in doing HTML. But there's certainly also a situation where building a native app makes sense. And PowerBuilder is very productive at building a native client. So we don't see that PowerBuilder, there's not going to be a demand for it going forward. It's just changing. The types of apps you build with PowerBuilder, instead of client server, will be cloud applications. And that's what we've been focusing on, is modifying PowerBuilder so that they can consume cloud assets or cloud services. So that kind of brings me into the customer's evolving needs. PowerBuilder is a very large customer base, actually. You don't really notice it when you go to like a PowerBuilder seminar or something. You don't see so many people there. A lot of people don't come out. I don't know, they hide, they're scared. But we really have a lot of customers worldwide, and different customers have different needs. We have a lot of large Fortune 500 companies. You sort of think of some of the world's biggest companies. They have heavy investments in PowerBuilder, and they can't quickly shift technologies the way a smaller company can with less code and so on. They have massive systems, and they move very slowly. So they're looking for Appeon to provide a stable maintenance for PowerBuilder. They want PowerBuilder to be reliable for many years to come. They're not looking for radical changes. They just want to make sure it meets their ongoing needs. And then we have another group that's further along in modernizing their IT infrastructure. They're looking at API-Enablement. So API-Enablement basically means freeing up your business logic out of your client side, out of a client-server architecture, and putting that business logic on the server side and making it accessible through a standard interface such as REST. So that is an initiative. Some customers are moving forward to the cloud. They're not ready to completely move to the cloud, but they're starting to move things into APIs. And then we have other customers that are ready that, I need to move my whole PowerBuilder app to the cloud, not just APIs. We have a segment of customer that has that need. And then we even have customers that are coming back to us saying, we have PowerBuilder skills. We like the productivity of PowerBuilder. How do we develop new applications of PowerBuilder? But we want to build modern app, not client server. So these are the various needs, and what Appeon has been doing is systematically, through different products and features we've created, catering to these different segments of needs. So for the maintenance, we've been constantly enhancing PowerBuilder's client server features. Client server is not something that's going to go away. Appeon is committed to continuing to maintain and enhance client server features. So you don't need to worry about your existing projects at all. And nothing's going to change about this. You're going to still be scripting in PowerScript. We're not changing the C#, and everything's around the data window. But for API-Enablement, because API-Enablement is running on the server, you're going to have a hybrid. You're working with a couple different languages and tools. So we've created an IDE called SnapDevelop. And what that allows you to do is rapidly create this business logic through a REST interface on the server side. And as part of SnapDevelop, we've provided something called .NET Data Store, which basically recreates a non-visual data window in C#. And we've done tight integration with the PowerBuilder client so that without a lot of coding, you could easily consume or interact with the REST API. So under a hybrid model, you might still be a client-server app. Some of the business logic is in REST API. So your client side is PowerScript, the server side is C#. But no matter on the client side or the server side, you always have data window. On the client side, you have data window control. On the server side, you have the .NET Data Store, which is the non-visual data window. Now, in terms of cloudification, for those of you that have followed Appeon, we've been around for 20 years, and we started doing PowerServer, which back then it was just called Appeon. We named it same as the company. And that was a web conversion solution, makes a PowerBuilder app deploy over the web. Well, these days the web is something outdated. The new thing is cloud, and there's a lot of momentum behind that. And so the issue with PowerServer today is it's not a cloud conversion solution, it's a web conversion solution. So starting with 2021, we're going to be converting that, changing PowerServer so that it can take a client-server application and automatically convert it to a cloud application. So with a cloud application, the client side would be PowerScript, the server side is C#. Both client side and server side has data windows. So this is basically, you can think of this as a modern cloud application, and what Cloud PowerServer does is automatically converts your app to this. Now, in terms of new development, you don't have to use PowerServer. PowerServer is something to take, you already wrote your code using a client-server architecture, so it converts it automatically. If you're developing a new application, then you can use PowerBuilder with the new Power Client feature to develop the client side. And what Power Client does is makes your application internet installable. And then for the server side, you can develop that with Snap Develop and .NET Data Store to create your business logic and the data access. And so under this model, it's giving you the same type of app you get PowerServer, but you're creating this new. So there's no reason to use a conversion solution like PowerServer. You can just develop new cloud applications with PowerBuilder. Now, if you compare developing new today with PowerBuilder versus in 1995, all that has changed is that you're developing cloud architecture instead of client-server architecture. And on the server side, you're coding things in C# instead of normally in client-server. If you want to do something on server, it's stored procedures only. That's pretty much your only choice. Now you have another layer besides stored procedure where you can put things into the C# logic. So that's all that has really changed. You're still going to have a lot of the productivity of PowerBuilder because everything is centered around data windows, both on the client and the server side. So now I want to talk about, we talked about those 4 categories: maintenance, API-Enablement, cloudifying old client-server apps, developing new apps with PowerBuilder. I want to talk about the roadmap for each of those segments. So for maintenance, we're really focused on sustainability, stability, and security. So sustainability, what does that mean? It means making sure that PowerBuilder is giving you the key features you need. The customers in maintenance mode are not looking to make radical changes to their applications, but there's things that they need. So for example, we've added REST client, HTTP client. We've added interoperability with .NET. If you have a DLL that is developed with .NET, you can easily call that now with PowerBuilder. We've added 64-bit support and expanded some of the missing features. So for example, like if you're doing rich text edit, in 64-bit you didn't have rich text edit from text control. So we closed that gap. And then, obviously updating environment. For example, Microsoft stopped supporting the native client for SQL Server. So we have added the OLADB driver for SQL Server. This is a new OLADB driver that Microsoft recommends customers switch to from the native client. So these are things to make the application sustainable. Now, in terms of roadmap, we're looking to do more things. For example, on features, sending email is a big thing. PowerBuilder has some old obsolete email functionality. We're looking to come up with something totally new that works really well and support it. 64-bit today is not taking advantage of the full power of 64-bit. So even though it is native 64-bit, so there's room that we can optimize this so that it improves performance, memory consumption, and so on 64-bit. And then obviously, databases, constantly new versions come out, OSs, new versions come out. So we make sure to keep updating the environment going forward with the latest OS and database version. So this is kind of what the roadmap looks like in terms of features for maintenance. Now, in terms of stability, when we inherited PowerBuilder, There were so many features missing. There were so many bugs. And we're trying to do our best to fix all of that in a short time. So we have fixed some crash issues. We have fixed performance issues. We fixed bugs. But there's more that we need to do, and we know that. And so as part of our maintenance roadmap focus, stability is taking a very high priority in Appeon. Any sort of crash issues that are widespread or performance issues that are widespread or bugs that multiple customers complain about are taking very high priority going forward. Security is another area that takes high priority. I don't want to necessarily lump that as a bug, because sometimes with security, it's not just bugs. It might be a feature that you need so that your application continues to be secure. So for example, PowerBuilder, before when you use the HTTP services of PowerBuilder, before Appeon took over PowerBuilder, it didn't support TLS 1.2. And the older TLS is not secure. So some web services or websites are even blocking anything that's older than TLS 1.2. So that's an example of a feature we added. We've added data encryption. We've added support for tokens. That's a common security mechanism in OAuth. PowerBuilder had a web browser control. It used Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer is not a secure browser, and Microsoft's not, really enhancing it going forward. They've switched themselves to Chromium for Edge browser. So we also now have added a Chromium web browser control. PowerBuilder requires runtime files, but those files were never signed during the Sybase and SAP days. So we've signed it so you can ensure the integrity of your application. Now, going forward, we have some roadmap for security also. If you're using either the new Power Client option that is added in 2019 R3, or you use the new Power Server 2021, you'll have the option to encrypt your PBDs. So what that means is if someone uses a decompiler to decompile your PBD, they won't be able to see your source code or steal it. So and this issue is not just a PBD. Anything that's bytecode, C#, Java, so on, bytecode can be easily decompiled. So this is something we've added from a security perspective. And obviously, a top priority is any vulnerability issue. We won't treat a vulnerability as simply a bug. That's a separate category that we pay top priority to. So that's the roadmap for maintenance. Now, we're not just looking at the runtime, we're also looking at the IDE of PowerBuilder. So because, when you're maintaining an application, you're every day working the PowerBuilder IDE, and there's a lot of improvement that the PowerBuilder IDE needs. So far, we've only done little things. If you're using 2019 or R2, there was a little bit of changes. We supported Git and SVN source control, made it a little easier to do searching and so on. But in R3, we've really made a lot of changes, and we're going to continue to make lots of changes to the PowerBuilder IDE to improve it. The first change that we've made is decoupling the PowerBuilder IDE and runtime. And so what that allows you to do is one single PowerBuilder IDE can target multiple versions of runtime. And we've also made it so that when you have a single subscription of PowerBuilder, you can use multiple versions of PowerBuilder on the same machine. But this only takes effect for 2019 R3 and newer. So imagine you have 2019 R3 and 2021. You can use both of those PowerBuilder versions at the same time without logging in and out. We're also going to continue enhancing the source control. We've added support for doing branching and merging in Git and other things so that you can do more tasks inside PowerBuilder IDE instead of leaving the PowerBuilder IDE and going to like a Git client. We've made all the different system dialogues larger and resizable. And we've looked through PowerBuilder to see where you have to do too many clicks, and we're trying to reduce those clicks. So now you can directly open an object from the browser search window with one click. If you want to edit a drop-down data window, you can just right-click on the drop-down data window and edit it right away, the data object. So, and we're going to keep going in that direction. Now, what are you going to see after 2021 for IDE enhancements? We're looking to move to a tabbed editor style. So if any of you have worked with Snap Develop, you know that anytime you open an object to edit it, it's another tab inside of the IDE. And that's, these days, most IDEs, that's how they do it. And so we're going to be planning on moving PowerBuilder to that. PowerBuilder does have AutoScript feature, which is kind of like IntelliSense, but customers tell us and give us feedback that it's very limiting compared to, for example, the way we do auto scripting and snap develop for C#. So we're going to be looking to optimize that going forward. We have a lot of customers that are looking to do continuous integration, automated build. So we're going to be looking at how to better support that. We've already provided a standalone compiler and supported Git, and these are two things you need for continuous integration, but there's more we can do. So our roadmap will focus on that. Now, 64-bit, we've supported on the runtime, but on the IDE side, there's nothing 64-bit. So for example, you don't have 64-bit debugger. And that's something that's going to be coming after 2019 R3, as well as some other miscellaneous things like enhancing the search and other requests that you have. So the IDE is definitely going to start getting focused. Now, for the second group of our customers that are looking not just to maintain PowerBuilder app, they're looking to API enable their business logic. We brought Snap Develop to market, and this came last year, was the first version. And the first version was basically a lightweight C# IDE. It doesn't do everything Visual Studio does, but the thing that it does it pretty well. It allows you to quickly create REST APIs with data window technology. So it covers all the key basics that you need, and it's included free with your PowerBuilder subscription. Now, in 2019 R3, we've made a lot of enhancements both to Snap Develop and .NET Data Store, so that if you want to create APIs, you can do that with greater functionality and greater productivity. So the first thing that we've done is done asynchronous programming. And if you're not familiar with that, I won't go into that technical detail, but this programming model has some benefits over synchronous, and there's certain situations that make sense to use that. So it would be, you're able to do that now with the .NET Data Store. And then we've also enhanced the scaffolding so that it can quickly generate synchronous or asynchronous services for you. If you have any JSON or XML, you can paste that now as classes. That saves a lot of time. We've enhanced the debugger so that you can more quickly, more easily find problems, as well as we've enhanced the debugger to work with asynchronous code. Snap Develop support Docker, but in this version, we've made it so you can do pretty much everything inside Snap Develop that's related to Docker, including publishing, deploying, orchestrating, and you can do all of that with one click. I strongly recommend you take a look at something like Docker if you are going to develop REST APIs. It's a much easier, better way to manage your deployment than a traditional deployment model. And then we've expanded support for cloud databases. So in addition to all the databases PowerBuilder supports like SQL Server and Oracle and SQL Anywhere and ASC, we have also supported the various cloud databases on Amazon and Azure. So for example, like Amazon Aurora is now supported. And then we've also supported .NET Core 3.1 in this version, which is a long-term support version of .NET Core. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with .NET Core, Microsoft is replacing .NET with .NET Core. .NET will disappear, and it's going to be .NET Core. And that's going to start from next version 5 is when this switch happens. And the .NET Core is really basically a subset of .NET. It gives you most of what .NET does. But the benefit of .NET Core over .NET is that it's cross-OS, it's open source, and it's a cloud-native architecture. So it's basically the .NET of the future. And PowerBuilder, Snap Develop and .NET Data Store already support .NET Core, and we're supporting the newer version R3. Now, what's coming after 2019 R3? Well, the roadmap for API development is that we're going to allow you to develop microservices, not just traditional REST APIs. So you can think of a microservice as another type of REST API. It's still a REST API, but it's much smaller. It's micro. And you can even develop serverless applications. And the first cloud provider we plan on doing tight integration with is AWS. So you can develop cloud applications or APIs for any cloud provider. It's not proprietary. We're not locking you down to one provider. But if you do want to use AWS, we'll have a specific AWS project type, and you'll find that it's even less coding. It's easier to develop for AWS with Snap Develop. And obviously continuing to enhance the Docker, the debugging, and so on, testing features. The other thing that we'll be doing is allowing you to develop other UIs. Today, if you want to develop a UI besides PowerBuilder UI for your APIs, you have to go use another tool like Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code. So we plan on supporting all the key popular UI frameworks, both HTML, JavaScript frameworks, for example, like Angular, and also React Native for developing mobile. Now, there's so many different UI technologies. We're not going to add all of them. We're going to pick a few, but we want to try to give you all the key options. You want to do a native app, you can do that PowerBuilder. You want to do JavaScript, you can. You want to do mobile, you have a React Native option. Now, let's talk about cloudification. This is really important because there's a lot of PowerBuilder customers and all the apps were developed before cloud. So all of these apps are client server, and these apps have to move forward. And Appeon is very focused on helping people move forward. And so what we're doing is taking the Power Server and greatly enhancing it. So I wanted to briefly compare how the new version of Power Server will compare. Power Server 2020 supports 50 to 65% of PowerBuilder features only. As a result of that, if you want to convert a client-server app with Power Server 2020, it's many months of work. The design is a black box. You have no room to customize, or if something doesn't work correctly, you can't adjust the code. It's a black box solution. Because it's black box, the security is very rigid. Whatever security feature Appeon provides you in Power Server, that's the only security you can use. And the architecture is a traditional web architecture because we developed Power Server 10, 15 years ago before the cloud even existed. And because it's a traditional web architecture, it runs on .NET instead of .NET Core, which is obsolete. And because it's .NET, not .NET Core, the server OS can only be Windows. And on the client side, the way we implement it is a browser plugin. Now, 2021 is going to address these shortcomings of Power Server, and I think it's going to make it a really good solution for everybody to start easily, quickly moving client-server apps to a modern cloud architecture. So it's going to support basically 100% of PowerBuilder features. As a result, your conversion should take days, not months. And the design is an open design. You can even see the code that's generated on the server and modify it. It's not a black box solution. So because it's not a black box solution, you can see all of the source code even on the server. You can add whatever security mechanism you want. And it's going to be a cloud-native architecture. So that means that if you do decide to use one of the public clouds like AWS or Azure or whatever cloud is popular in Italy, it's going to work very nice with that. And then because it's going to be cloud-native, we naturally switch from .NET to .NET Core. And as a result, you can run on not just Windows servers, but also Linux and so on. And what we've done is we've moved away from the web browser. If any of you have used Power Server already today, you know there's an option called IWA, or Installable Web App. So the desktop cloud app is basically that, but it's using native PowerBuilder technology instead of JavaScript. But the user experience is going to be very, very similar to the IWA. So Power Server 2021 runtime architecture, I just want to briefly explain how this is different than client server. So even though on the client side, you have a PowerScript exe and PBDs and the PBVM, one key difference is that this client automatically installs over the internet to the user's machine, and we support any Windows device. So not just a Windows desktop or laptop. Microsoft has, like, for example, Surface tablets with touch screens. You'd be able to use any device that runs Windows 10 operating system that has an Intel chip. And then, so that's one very key difference. Another very key difference is that we break down the PBDs into very small files. And so imagine you changed one window object or one data window object. We automatically, incrementally update each object to their user's machine. It's not they have to download the whole application again. And this happens automatically. Every time the user starts the app, it'll connect to the web server. Did any of the objects change? It'll only update the objects that change. Now, the other thing that's different is the way the client communicates with your server. In client server, that's using database driver, direct communication over TCP/IP to your database. With the cloud architecture, it's going to be through REST APIs over HTTP. And on the server, we've done an open design where you can see the controllers for the REST interface. You can see your embedded SQL and your data window models, and then it's all running on .NET Core Framework. And then it's these REST APIs, the .NET data store and embedded SQL using the database driver on the server side, which is a native ADO.NET provider. That's what does the communication to the database. Now, because we're using the native PBVM instead of translating to JavaScript, that's why PowerServer 2021 can support basically 100% of PowerBuilder features. And then because we're not translating to JavaScript, it's going to have native performance. JavaScript is a slower language than PowerScript when it's executing in the browser. And the .NET Core is going to give you that cloud-native cross-OS architecture. And you have your embedded SQLs and data window models, which is a more secure architecture. And because it's REST interface, you can share these with any other UI. So PowerServer is no longer just publishing your PowerBuilder app. It's freeing up all your embedded SQL and data window models so that if you want to build, let's say, a mobile UI also, and use PowerServer for Windows devices, and I want my customer list or my order list available on a mobile device, you can easily develop a face with whatever you want, Vue.js, React Native, to then call the REST APIs that PowerServer already created for you. All right, so now let's talk about new development. I keep mentioning that, you know, PowerBuilder I see has a very good future because you still need to develop clients. Not everybody is going to make sense to do HTML, or not everyone wants to do mobile, right? Windows is the predominant operating system, and people still use desktops, laptops, tablets. But, you know, PowerBuilder, to be a good solution, the UI needs to continue evolving. So people say, yes, I want to build a client with PowerBuilder. And so we've been focusing on that to enhance PowerBuilder as a good client development solution. And so the first thing that we've been focusing on in our roadmap is developing a Windows 10 style. You know, PowerBuilder technology is really good, but a lot of customers look at it and go, oh, this doesn't look like Windows 10. This looks like 1995. So they assume it's not good technology because it looks old. So we've been trying to follow to make PowerBuilder have the Windows 10 style. And we've done this through UI themes, ribbon bar, updated icons, updated pictures. Now, PowerBuilder also needs new controls. They're a third-party solution for adding controls to PowerBuilder, but it's always nice PowerBuilder natively providing more controls. So one thing we've done is added a Chromium web browser control. And when we do that, that really opens up that you can embed all sorts of things inside your application. So don't think of the Chromium web browser as one control. It opens it up where you could put lots of different things inside your application and enrich, you know, the user interface. The other thing that we've done is in 2019 R3, we have enhanced the web browser control so that your PowerScript code can integrate with any JavaScript that's running in the web browser. So this way, the web browser is not just displaying something. It becomes integrated working together with your applications. And another thing we've done is we've integrated something called Apache eCharts. It's an open source charting solution. So it's an alternative to the graph data window. If you want to create graphs with a more modern visualization or support graph types that graph data window doesn't support, such as, for example, a funnel graph or a scatter graph or a K-line, you're now able to do that with 2019 R3 and Apache eCharts. Now, UI compatibility is another very important part. You know, the way people are using UI today compared to years ago has changed. So one big difference is people are not looking to do traditional install. They want modern app that automatically installs, automatically updates. You don't do everything in HTML. You have your Windows machine with real apps, but those apps are smart apps. They're automatic. And so that's what Power Client gives you. That's a new feature of 2019 R3. And it's available in PowerBuilder Professional Edition and higher. The other thing that we've done to make PowerBuilder more compatible in 2019 R3 is changing the PB units so that it supports long data type. Because these days, most screens are high resolution. They have more pixels than an integer can support. So that's another change that we've done. Another change that we've done is support Microsoft UI automation. Now, if you notice, Microsoft renamed this. Instead of calling it accessibility, they call it automation. Because these days, people are using accessibility features of the Windows operating system to automate UI tasks. So there are third-party tools such as UiPath that you can use to, rather than have a human being do something, really typing on your application, it's like a robot. The robot will take care of doing it. And the way these robots work is they rely on the accessibility features of the Windows operating system. So now in R3, we support the new version of that accessibility. It's called Microsoft UI Automation. Now, what's coming beyond 2019 R3? We're going to continue doing more enhancements to make it closer and closer to Windows 10 style. So if somebody looks at a PowerBuilder app, they cannot tell that it's not any different from a Windows 10 app or something else that developed for the Windows 10 operating system. We're going to be looking at adding more new controls. We're not going to add a lot. If you want to have hundreds, thousands of fancy, flashy controls, you need to look at a third-party solution. But we're looking to add some of the core controls that PowerBuilder is missing that it should have. And so we will be enhancing the graph data types, but if you don't want to wait, you can start to use Apache eCharts today instead of waiting for the graph data window enhancements. We'll also be adding a new control dynamic tab and status bar. Now, in terms of UI compatibility, we'll keep listening to the customers. As soon as we discover any other issues, we'll continue to enhance that to make sure the client is compatible. So now I just want to briefly let you, we talked about a lot of different things. I want to show you how all of this stuff fits together. Using the Snap Develop IDE, you can develop new business logic with the productivity of data windows by using the .NET Data Store. So even though it's C#, if you look at that code, it's not that much different than PowerBuilder programming. So you have a lot of that productivity. And my recommendation to you is any new development you do, any new business logic you need to add to your application, create it in a REST API using .NET Data Store. Now, we also have a feature called PowerScript Migrator in Snap Develop, and that's available in the Cloud Pro edition of PowerBuilder. And what that will do is automatically convert your existing MVOs, embedded SQL, and so on into REST APIs in C# automatically. So that lets you free your business logic from the client side, move it to the server automatically. It can probably automate about 80% of the migration of any MVOs that you have. Now, once you've converted your business logic and created new business logic in C#, you can change your PowerBuilder app today instead of being the traditional client to use Power Client. And that way it'll install and update over the internet. And the Power Client can make the REST calls to all of this stuff, the new business logic you create as well as the old business logic you automatically converted. Now, if you find the work is too much to convert everything with PowerScript Migrator, you can use PowerServer. PowerServer will take an existing client-server app and automatically convert everything to be cloud in a short amount of time. Okay. Now, the nice thing is once you've done all of these things and you've converted to these REST APIs, these REST APIs can be consumed across your application. So a lot of customers we talk to, they say, I have a redundant business logic. I have this similar code in this PowerBuilder app and that PowerBuilder app. Now you can share all of these things across all your PowerBuilder apps, as well as other UI you may create. So for example, you might have something that you need to expose on a web browser. So you might use ASP.NET Core or JavaScript framework. You might have a subset of your PowerBuilder app you need to expose on mobile device. You might use React Native. And so all of these different UIs can consume the same set of business logic. Okay? And all of these are cloud applications. So in terms of release schedule, early next year, we're targeting January. the 2019 R3 will be released. And 2019 R3 is a long-term support version. We will also have a beta of PowerBuilder 2021. PowerBuilder 2021 is basically 2019 R3 plus PowerServer 2021. That's all that version really has. There's not tons of new features because you can see it's being released almost at the same time as 2019 R3. Now, long-term support version is important because it gives you 5 years of technical support. And so that's a good version to upgrade to if you're looking to make a switch. We know that it's not easy constantly to upgrade to every version. We release new versions very often. So that's definitely a good version upgrade too. Now, in the second quarter, we're looking more like May or June of next year. There'll be the final release, not beta, of the PowerBuilder 2021. We're not going to do any revisions. Normally, we do revisions of PowerBuilder. So revision, as you can think of, in the old days, you had 12.0 and then 12.1 and then 12.5. Those are revisions. So we're not going to do any revisions. We're going to go straight from 2021 to 2022. And then for 2022, we will be making revisions. And that's where we'll keep enhancing, making smaller changes to the features. And you can expect revision 2 sometime in the year 2023. Now for PowerServer, there's going to be a beta available of PowerServer 2021 at the same time as PowerBuilder 2021 beta because the two go together as a set. And that's targeting around end of January. We're also going to do a maintenance release for PowerServer 2020. And we're going to make PowerServer 2020 a long-term support version because, 2021 makes the architecture change. Maybe customers don't want to right away switch, or maybe they see some bugs or something. So 2020 being a long-term support version means you get 5 years of support and fixes on 2020. The GA of PowerServer 2021 would match up with PowerBuilder 2021, and future PowerServer releases would match up with future PowerBuilder releases. And because, 2020 is long-term support, you can see that every year there's going to be maintenance releases for that going forward. All right, the last thing I wanted to outline for you is that, you guys do have a voice. Appeon does listen to our customers. We're not as big of a company as SAP or Sybase. So, and I hope you've already seen that, but in case you haven't, it's important you speak up. Okay? So the way you can speak up is one thing is participate in our betas. Our betas are customer betas, not public betas. But anybody that's an Appeon customer for PowerBuilder, you can use the beta and you can give feedback to us about those features. And you'd be surprised. We've taken a lot of feedback from the 2019 R3 beta, and we have already incorporated that in the final release of R3. So if people did not test the beta, then those enhancements would have happened maybe in 2021 instead of in 2019 R3. So I really encourage you guys to get involved testing the new features. The other way that we listen to customers and get feedback so that we can improve our products is we have our team monitoring the Appeon community Q&A. So if you go to community.appeon.com, it's in English, not in Italian, but if you feel okay to do some level of communication in English, we are watching that. Our product manager, our support people, even myself, I spend time there because it's very important we understand what the customers are complaining about or what they're experiencing and what challenges they have. Now, the other feedback mechanism is support tickets. So anytime you open a support ticket, we're looking at that. Sometimes a support ticket is not a bug. We close the ticket because we say this is a product enhancement, not a bug. And so the product manager is looking into that. Or, for example, if we see a lot of people complaining about the same type of thing, that will then make that ticket, that type of issue become a higher priority. The last thing is emails. So Software Products Italia is a very good partner of ours. You're very lucky that, you don't have to wait for time zone and communicate in English with us in San Francisco. You have a local partner right there on the ground that cares a lot about you guys. So you can definitely email them whatever feedback, suggestions, difficulties you have. And they work very closely with our product manager, and we can get that feedback over to product manager so we can consider that in our roadmap. All right, now it's time for a live Q&A. And to do that, simply you can ask your questions by clicking on the chat, and I'll be happy here to answer. And I'm going to switch my camera on so you can see my face. Let me see how to do that. Give me one second.
I think you could just stop the sharing, the video sharing, and then on the bottom of the page you should start video.
Okay.
There you go. Ah, wow.
You're able to see me?
Good morning.
Good morning. Good evening. Good to see you guys.
Morning. I think you still have probably I think you still have the page, the shared page, or if not you, maybe someone else. I don't know.
I can see my camera through here.
Yeah. Anyway, it's okay.
Hi, Armeen. How are you?
Hi, Andrea. How are you doing?
So we have a question in the chat.
Okay.
Alex wrote, why wait for 2019 R3 when 2021 comes out shortly after?
Well, the reason to go with 2021 would be if you want to use PowerServer 2021. That is the only feature difference, basically, between 2019 R3 and 2021. So if you don't need PowerServer 2021, the reason I don't recommend you use 2019 R3 is because R3 is a long-term support version. Now, long-term support version, why is that important? Maybe you say, I don't care about 5 years of tech support. But the point is a long-term support version is much less buggy. So if you use PowerBuilder 2021, it's like when the first new major release comes out. It's always going to have more bugs than a major version that has been revised 3 times. So I don't recommend to use PowerBuilder 2021 unless you need PowerServer 2021. I hope that answers the question.
I think so. Alex, I think, yeah, Alex says yes. Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you. Then,
hi, Armeen. It's Giuseppe Moglia. I want to say hi.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Nice to see you.
Sorry?
It's nice to see you. It's too bad we cannot do this face to face.
Yeah.
But we're doing it actually.
You know, next time.
Yeah, salami. Alex said salami. I know.
I hope by COVID doesn't permit that, and I hope next time we will see face to face and celebrate your visit, but also the
end of the virus.
Yeah, the end of the virus.
Celebrate that.
For sure. But also the start of the first Appeon user group in Italy.
Yeah.
I don't know if Pasquale already asked you, told you, but we set up an Appeon user group, and we just need to create a bank account. As you know, in Italy, we have to do a lot of paper to do everything, but we are close to set up also this and create website and so on. So next time we will have all the requisites for a real Appeon user group. We want to share. We want to share and spread the Appeon products, and we want to collaborate with you in order to have more info and share tips and tricks from each other.
Excellent.
We had a meeting in the last day, and I wrote some topics, but we already told about that because the topics are PowerBuilder IDE. You know, in Italy there are a lot of legacy application on PowerScript, so improve the performance of developers on PowerBuilder IDE is a great topic for us.
Definitely.
This is one, but you already told about that. The second one is database interface. HANA Informix are database very important for us, but I know you are good to see our needs. So I hope you will make PowerBuilder compliant with more and more database such as Informix or HANA, for example. The other topic is licensing, because you know, in Italy we have to create a new generation of PowerBuilder or Appeon developers, and to do so we have to enter in school and share with them PowerBuilder products, but licensing for our school are too expensive. So if you want, we can talk about that and try to find a solution in order to spread your product in our school and to have a new generation of developers for us and new license, new payment license now in the company for you. Okay.
So okay. So do you want me to answer those, or is this just feedback, or I didn't understand. Are these questions?
Yeah. The question is about if we can find a solution to share with the school your products and show your product on school and let's adopt them from students.
Yeah, you know, the thing that we've been thinking about is to make .NET Data Store and Snap Develop available in some sort of like a community edition or education edition, and that would be free, you know. So that's something we can do. We don't have any plans to make the PowerBuilder IDE itself, but through the angle of REST APIs, C#, we can make data window technology available, you know, to the schools. And we think that's a better angle anyway, because if you go to most schools, you know, they're not teaching to develop client server, you know, and PowerScript is not a popular language. So in the end, we could make it available, but very few schools will take up us on this offer. We have a much easier chance to get PowerBuilder into the schools if we're not so different from the kind of things they teach today, right, in the computer science program. So for that, we think that the Snap Develop plus the .NET Data Store might be a good angle. And if you follow the new way, not developing client server anyway, the PowerBuilder UI is going to be light, right? What you're doing a lot of your coding in C# with .NET Data Store. That's the heavy part. PowerBuilder would just be user interface and some scripting logic, right? Is the field empty and so on, you know, on the client side. So that's not going to be something difficult. Like, let's say you hired one of those people from the university that really knows how to use Snap Develop and .NET Data Store really well. For them to learn how to visually drag and drop, you know, a control in PBIDE and write a little bit of script when you click the button, do this, do that, that's not going to be difficult. So we think this is a more practical way to solve it. And it also balances that, you know, PowerBuilder is a very key source of revenue. We have to be very careful that by making a community edition or open source, we don't hurt the revenue. Then Appeon could get into financial trouble. So we're always trying to balance these two things. You know, that's the challenge.
Yeah. I know it's difficult. You have not to give me a final answer now. But as I said, we need new developers, and we have a lot of legacy application working on PowerBuilder IDE. So you know, I know there's that problem, but the issue is, the point I'm trying to make to you
one is obviously we have business concern on our end, but even let's say forget about our business concern. The reality is just because you make it available doesn't mean people go learn. You can't force people to do something they don't want to do, right? So the cloud is the future, not client server. C# is one of the most popular languages. So you can offer this. It's not going to solve the problem where every kid goes, I want to go learn this. There's so many jobs, right? Yep. So we need to be realistic. I think the way to get people to fall in love with PowerBuilder is to get them to fall in love with data window. That's how you create the interest. The way to create the interest with data window is not to talk about PowerScript and client server. It's to talk about C# and REST APIs and cloud. That is what the schools, they want to prepare the children for the future, right? The school doesn't care about if you have some legacy app left in client server. That's your pain. The school's job is to prepare people for the future. Okay. So I'm not saying it's not a pain, and we tried to address that in other ways too. We took the PowerBuilder Fast Track course. It's something PowerBuilder used to charge $3,000 or something like that, at least in the US. They charge $3,000 for that course. We took the Fast Track course. We made it online and free, and that course only takes 1 to 2 weeks to complete. There's free 30-day version of PowerBuilder. You can download a free 30-day version of PowerBuilder, and you go through that course and you learn. So you could hire somebody from a school that does not know PowerBuilder at all, and you don't even need to pay Appeon any money. You use a trial, and in 1 month they should be a PowerBuilder developer at a basic level. It's not that hard to learn. It's really the heavy stuff in the data window and the .NET data store. And that's something we can make available to people, not just as trial.
So we can expect student or education edition just for Snap Develop, right?
Yes, with the .NET data store.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's something we could possibly do. But I don't think our plan is to do PBID because one is, like I said, I have business concern, but two is I really don't see that's going to solve the problem. If it would solve the problem and all of a sudden there would be millions of PowerBuilder developers, just like there's 6 million C# developers, then that's a different story. Yeah. But I think you will find that you might be able to get 1 or 2 schools in Italy to offer some PowerBuilder course because you twist their arm and you have a special relationship. But it's not like all the schools all around the world, everyone will line up and say, we've got to add this to our course. This is a key skill that our students need to succeed.
Okay, your vision is clear, and I agree.
Okay.
We have to match the student need and the company need.
Yeah.
So we have to grow up as the student and go to a new architecture as a cloud architecture.
That's right.
This is
That's
topic.
right. That's right. And if your company is going to move to cloud architecture, then even though the student doesn't know how to, develop the UI in PowerBuilder, it's not hard to learn, and they already would be knowledgeable about developing the business logic. And to me, in a PowerBuilder app, the most important part is the business logic. It's not the UI. I don't think that's very important, and that's why our strategy has been that if you take a look, we're not forcing you to use PowerBuilder UI. You can use React Native. You can use, ASP.NET Core. I don't care what UI you use. What I care about is you use data window on the server. Data window is the unique thing about PowerBuilder, and we've evolved that to fit the way people build apps today now, the modern way. You saw Marco, he developed the Vue.js app, okay? The productivity of developing that with Snap Develop and data window technology, and that's a modern architecture app, is much better than if you didn't use PowerBuilder technology. But PowerBuilder is still going to be around for a long time because so many client-server apps exist. And also, we are, as you saw in our roadmap, we're modernizing the PowerBuilder client so that some customers might say, you know what, I want a native Windows app. I don't want HTML. Not everyone, HTML is not the answer to everything. And so we're going to try to enhance that. So hopefully some people do new development. Just this week, I was on 2 different customer meetings where they asked me, Armeen, we want to build a new application but we want to do it as easy as possible, as productive as possible. We don't care about HTML, but we want to build a modern application and as easy as possible. And I told them, I said, use PowerBuilder for the UI with Snap Development .NET Data Store on the server side. And they were going to go that direction. So basically, this is doing data window on the client and server and using PBID plus Snap Develop. But of course, they have PowerBuilder skill, right? This is existing customers. But I'm just saying that existing customers are using PowerBuilder to build new apps with a PowerBuilder UI. I see that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Abbiamo Armeen. People, someone in the chat wrote that they agree with you, and we also have there is Luca Arena who is going to ask you something because I think it's kind of interesting. Prego, Luca.
Hello, Armeen.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure, as always. I have just two questions about the PBID enhancements.
Okay.
And the first one is, in which PBA version will we see something of these? It's more likely in 2022 or what?
So in 2019 R3, you will see what I showed on that slide. It was the middle box. There was a lot of enhancements. So the key enhancements, the biggest enhancements are that now the PBID can compile for multiple versions of runtime. Normally it was, I have PB 2019, the runtime is 2019. The two are tied together. Now it's not. It's like Visual Studio, right? In Visual Studio 2019, I can compile a .NET 4.0 app, or I could do a .NET Core app. You can select what to compile for, including the biggest change you made. I don't know if Marco demoed this. I was asleep when you guys were doing your seminar earlier, but one thing that that this feature can do is you can have, let's say you have two PowerBuilder apps, okay? One is using PowerBuilder 2019 R3, and the other app has some bug, so you need a maintenance release. You can use the maintenance release and R3 side by side, the two runtimes. Normally, when you install a newer version, it overwrites the runtime. You cannot have two small versions together. But now going forward, you can. So that way, you don't have to upgrade all of your apps. You can keep this app in 2019 R3, and then this one, I add the maintenance release. And that way, you don't have to retest all of your apps. You just retest the one app. So this feature is, I think, going to be very popular, help a lot. If you really start to use it and understand it, you'll see. The other thing is the Git enhancements. So you can now do branching and merging inside the PBID. That's also in 2019 R3. So the rest of the enhancements that was on the far right of the presentation, where I said it's coming in the future, those will be in 2022. 2021, we're very busy with Power Server, so we don't have time to do that in 2021.
Okay, wonderful. Because the question was that we like very much to have some enhancements in PowerBuilder IDE with regards to navigation inside the code. Something like right button, go to definition of Visual Studio. But this would be very, very, very nice for us because, in the PowerBuilder IDE, it's a bit difficult to navigate from one object to another. So this would be very, very, very nice.
That sounds like a very good feature, and it sounds practical. I think we can implement it. So what I would recommend is, give these ideas you have for the enhancing the IDE, give it to SPI, and then they will work with Julie, our product manager, to make sure that she understands this. Yeah. But that would be in 2022. We won't be able to do that before then.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sure. You're welcome.
There is Alex saying that it could be quite difficult to to create an ERP accounting
with HTML.
With web templates or stuff like that. So then I don't know if Alex wants to say something, or if it's enough that I tell this to Armeen and maybe he could comment on this.
No, that's why if you take a look at it, that's why exactly we're enhancing the PowerBuilder UI. You know, we're not just doing PowerBuilder as maintenance for client server, for the legacy apps. We want people to build new apps with PowerBuilder, and that's why we created Power Client. Because we know no one's going to build an app with PowerBuilder if you have to manually install and manually update. That's not the modern way of deploying apps, right? Or as an example, we've enhanced the UI, right, and make it look better and add ribbon bar, and we added UI automation. So that shows you we're not just trying to maintain PowerBuilder for client server. But we're not going to force people in one way. You know, different situation needs different UI. ERP, you need a PowerBuilder UI. Some other situation, maybe you're better off with what Marco showed. So all we care about is use whatever UI that makes sense for your project, and we will support multiple options. And what you do on the server is always data window, .NET data store. And do API architecture. This is the way to be building apps. You know, just like back in 1995, people didn't say, oh, I should build a mainframe app. It was all about client server. That's the right way to build app, much better than mainframe. The way that we're showing you today is the way that we should be building apps from now and going forward in new systems. Is there any other questions?
Qualcun altro? I don't think so.
Okay. Excellent.
Okay. So, thank you very much, Armeen.
Thank you.
Do you want to add something, or you're okay?
No, I hope we can see each other next year, you know.
Hope so.
You know,
everybody.
Because online is not the same, you know, the interactions you have, you know, talking over dinner and so on, or lunch. It's totally different, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
A cup of whiskey.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when we do online, we get very few questions and few interactions. So I miss that interaction. It becomes more like a lecture. You know, we're sending information out, but it's not two-way. And that two-way is very important for Appeon as a company to understand the customers and evolve, you know. So anyway, we hope that people will give you feedback by email, maybe, Pasquale, and
yeah, probably yes. So
you know, and if you provide that information, and we're very glad that we have Giuseppe doing the local user event. That becomes a great way to frequently have communication. Right now, we don't want just once a year, you know, at these recap events to have interaction. So hopefully, you can work together closely at SPI and get us all this feedback because, you know, we are very focused on PowerBuilder, and we do want to keep evolving it, making it a good product, you know.
Sure, we'll do so.
Yeah.
For sure. And we hope to see face to face next time.
Yeah.
In real life.
In body
and soul.
In real life. And as Appeon User Group and together with Software Products, we will send you feedback and proposal such as the one you heard by Luca Arena. Because we really want to improve the product and spread it on the Italian market.
Definitely.
Okay.
That sounds very good. All right, guys. Have a good evening. Enjoy your dinner.
Thank you again.
Okay.
Armeen, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bene, grazie a tutti.
Bye.
Allora,
Grazie.
direi che saluti e buona cena a tutti quanti. Grazie per essere stati presenti.
Grazie Pasquale.
Ciao a tutti. Ciao.
Pasquale. Grazie a voi.
Grazie. Luca, ciao Michele, ciao a tutti. Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.